This is a very exciting video for me to make because I'm showing you a brand new set of coloured pencils. Now, coloured pencils are so fabulous that I call them magic wands. Ooh! The original set of 24 magic wands are in a rainbow of colours, and we do have some skin tones, but I've been longing to add more neutral colours to be used for coloured pencil portraits. The SkinCare magic wands all have names that give a hint as to where they could be used. Now, this is just guidelines, it's not rules, it's just meant to be a helpful device, especially if you're new to drawing people and faces. Just gives you a little bit of something extra to lean on. On the back of the paper slip that the pencils come in is this little guide to the colours and some hints and tips for this special set. There's actually a clear pencil that you can use for blending techniques. White, black is lash line, a light grey for eyes, as well as a plethora of shadow colours. I like to use actual colours for shadows as well as greys. You'll also find a really inclusive selection of colours for actual skin tones. You're going to need the darker colours for lighter skin. You're going to need the lighter colours when you're creating dark skin as well, so you can build up all of the highlights and shadows, and also some helpful colours for waterline, for cheeks, for lips, so that you can add life and liveliness to your coloured pencil drawings. The reason that I adore sketching with coloured pencils is, well, they feel great to actually create with. But when I first started teaching online, I felt that it was very difficult to see lead or graphite pencil on video. So I started using coloured pencils, and I've just stuck with them ever since, and I use them for just about all my drawing. Now, I'm going to start this particular drawing, this example that I've got in this video, with one of my new stencils. And even though I drew this stencil for a start, but even though I love drawing faces, starting with an aid like a stencil or stamp, it just fast forwards the creation process, and I actually adore the challenge of using a stencil or a stamp to start off my artwork, and then I love to see how much I can change it. It's very easy to personalize stamps and stencils. So after sketching through the stencil, I'm now using that same color just to literally flesh out this face a little more. And I love using that deep contour as a start to a drawing because it's easy to take it lighter or darker later, but I can see exactly what I'm creating without it being too dark on the page. Now that I've got my key moments set there with the deep contour, I'm using light contour, which is just a lighter version, slightly warmer version of the same color family. And I'm using my pencil. See how sometimes I'm using the tip and sometimes I'm laying the pencil flat to the paper? And this just gives different types of lines. When I'm wanting a line that wants to draw attention to itself, that's a bit more of an edge, when I'm more certain, that's when I pop up onto the tip. And when I'm just wanting a softer curve, a softer line, I'm still feeling my way, that's when I tend to lay my pencil down so that I get a softer, almost blurred edge. I'll just give a few little tips about the paper that I'm using. I'm drawing in the Levitation journal, which is a very smooth, very fine paper, and the coloured pencils do work beautifully on this. Not in layers. You're not going to be able to layer up lots and lots of pencil because the paper is just so smooth. But all of my journals love magic wands and coloured pencils because I love them, and that is a prerequisite for any paper or surface. I do a lot of testing with magic wands with coloured pencils. Now I'm adding some darks here with a color called Rich Skin. This is has a red tone to it. It is a really dark brown. In older pencil sets, you may have seen this referred to as Indian red, which is a color name that's probably not intended to be offensive, but I think Rich Skin is a much better name for it anyway. And I'm really adding the darkest dark points of the face. So the lash line, in between the lips, brows, these are the areas of the face that are usually much, much darker. And I could go in with even the lash line black, or one of the Divine Skin, which is one of the darkest browns. But if I start with a color that's got a bit more liveliness to it, when I add those darker colors over the top, there's just more dimensionality that's added in. And when we get to the end of this video, you'll see that the drawing is really quite light, quite loose, quite carefree. I'm not adding tons of colored pencil. The way I use colored pencil is in quite a light way, and I am a mixed media artist. I'm starting with colored pencil, and then I would move into watercolor or layer cakes or all sorts of other art supplies. So this is just going to give me a base and the joy of drawing with one of my favorite tools. And one of the reasons I just adore colored pencils, magic wands, and one of the reasons I call them magic wands, is because they are so easy to hold. They're so easy to use. You can see exactly what color you're going to get. You can optically mix colors. You can physically blend colors together. But really the color that you're picking it up and using it for its inherent values. And that's why I needed to add more colors to my magic wand universe. Every so often you see me doing this, rolling my pencil on top of my drawing. And what I'm doing here is just checking the alignment. As I'm creating, I can see that I'm getting a little bit of banana face, what I call banana face, where the eyes might be aligned correctly, and then as the face goes down, I'm creating the rest of the features. They start to, just by habit or subconsciously, my mind is applying gravity to them, and you get a bit of a skewed placement of the features. So I'm just using that to try and help me level the face up as I go. Now I am using the darkest dark, a little bit of lash line there, and then going over with the blue shadow and a little bit of lilac shadow. This color, beautiful for shadows. I love popping a little bit of mauvey blue, even sometimes turquoise, but I have those in the other set, into my shadows. It helps give them more depth, but also more life, because it hints at the blood that is under the skin. Blood under the skin doesn't appear as reds and pinks. It appears as blues and purples, and we don't like to think of the veins and bags under the eyes and the purples and greens and blues that are under the skin, those sorts of shades, but they are part of life. They are part of our skins, and I think they do add a little bit of life. So you can just go lightly and see what that does, see the extra depth that brings to your artwork. I'm also starting to add a little bit of my peachy colours. So we've got some lovely, lively colours that are in the set. Flushed, Enervated, Waterline. These are all pinks and peaches and corals that are going to add vividness to the face, to the cheek area, as the name suggests, and into the waterline and into the tear ducts and the lip areas. And again, the names don't mean you must use the pencil only for this area. Of course not. They're just, again, it's just a guide. It's just as training wheels, and the names are sweet anyway. I'm adding a little bit of warmth to the face by adding a little bit of porcelain skin, a little bit of creamy skin, which is this pencil, and I might even add a little bit of powder puff as well. That's the palest of all of the colors. And as I often use these really, really soft colors, well, of course you can use them as highlights, but I use them to blend over my other pencil marks to soften and melt the pencil and just bring more and more variety. Coloured pencil, it's one of its most beautiful characteristics as you're using them is this ability to blend and layer and play with each other so that you're using individual colours to create new colours. Now, I find drawing with coloured pencils, really colouring in with them, quite tiring for my hands. So the way that I'm showing you how I'm using coloured pencils right here, this is how I use them to do my sketch, to get those parameters set up, and then I use other mixed media to create other details. So I've got the footage into fast motion and I'm using a colour I thought was very appropriate. This is Hair of Alice, because this did turn out to be Alice in Wonderland, and in an acrylic paint called Storytime. In those larger areas, because to colour all of that hair in coloured pencil would just take forever. If that is what you love to do, then you do that. Fabulous for you. I find it a bit tiring on my hand, so I go in with something a bit more freeform, and I love the contrast between the paint and the sort of free lines and then the more precise lines of the coloured pencil, which is really the focus of the drawing. I want you to focus on the face, on the eyes, on the expression. I'm also bringing in some of the original magic wands, as these are all designed to go together. I didn't want to repeat any of the colours that are in the magic wand set into the skincare collection, but there are some fantastic colours in the original magic wands that I need. To achieve really soft effects like I'm wanting on the cheeks here, I'm using some of my velvet pastels. The candy dippers are another little tool that does the same sort of thing. The paint has a gel formulation that you can just dab into with a clean fingertip to spread that around and get a really lovely, soft, beautiful, powdery look without any edges. So if I used watercolor or something else, I would get edges, and every art supply behaves differently. So I like to use everything. Hello, mixed media. I've used a little bit of Candy Dipper Paint Mini to add highlights, because it's that very, very, very fine tip. Using it to add highlights into the eye, and also that little blue bow. And to add a little bit more life to the hair, I'm using my fairy dust pigments that I've made into my own watercolor palette. So I get a golden strawberry blonde frame around this delicate face created in the new SkinCare Magic Wands, which you can find at janedavenport.com. That's also where you can find the levitation art journal that I've used in the background, these fairy dust fantastic palettes, the velvet pastels and Candy Dipper paint minis, everything that I used in this video. I hope that you enjoyed this video and you are tempted to try the SkinCare Collection Magic Wands for yourself.